Good morning to my new A Push crew. So happy to be back at school. I wanted to give you a brief little tutorial to help you for day one of class. Because again, we've got some kids that are going to be doing this remotely. We've got some kids that are going to be here live with me. And we're mostly going to all be on the same page on a day by day basis, which means on those days where you are remote, you're still going to be zooming in for a portion or portions of the class, including at the very beginning of our class time. For Tuesday, the 18th, the first day of school, all of my kids need to be on Zoom, both here and live. And we're just going to kind of walk through first day expectations and instructions and that sort of thing. And so, what I wanted you to know more than anything is that when you get prepared for day one of class, you need to be on your Zoom. And how do I get to Zoom? There's a number of places I've published it, and it should be fairly easy to find. But I wanted to take this opportunity for you to become more familiar with some of the other resources that we have this year. We're going to start with Final Site. I'm going to use period 2 as my example because they're my first A push class as we matriculate through the schedule. Um, but all of the final sites look the same. Okay, so the very first thing you will need is here is your Zoom link, Zoom links by period. And so if you click on that, you should be kind of in the waiting room, as it were, okay, until I admit you into the class. All right, so there's your Zoom. Please be there a couple minutes ahead of time for your first scheduled class, whether that's Tuesday the 18th or Wednesday the 19th. The same thing applies. And then I'll give you instructions kind of moving forward and making sure that we've got all our processes kind of in place. While you're here on Final Site, please check it out. Everything you need is either here on Final Site, will be here on Final Site, or is linked here through Final Site. So let's take a look at some examples, okay? Classroom expectations. You can click on the SMORE and check that out. That is full of information that you will also find here, okay? Things like our class bulletin, our syllabus, a link to our Google Drive folder. You're going to find a lot of this right here under resources. You'll also find it through the SMORE. The class bulletin is also here through the bulletin. So there's no shortage of ways for you to kind of make sure you're going to the right place. As I will explain, we're going to use the SMORE, Google Classroom, and Final Site, as well as some other tools as our primary places to go, okay, during a typical course session, remote or live. So what I would really like you to do prior to our first class is go through Final Site, click through the links, make sure you have a thorough understanding on where you're going to find these things. We are going to have a great year. I am going to really work with you guys to challenge our thinking, our assumptions, our knowledge about American history, to increase not just our knowledge, but our critical thinking skills, and really work towards an understanding of how history is relevant to modern conversations. Okay. There's a strong nexus between our past and where we are today. And the A Push framework gives us, I think, with a little bit of tweaks by your teachers, a great framework to have these conversations. Um, Lastly, turnitin.com, summer assignment. Your expectations on how to do that here are in that left-hand column, as my letter says, and your class name, key, and enrollment ID or enrollment, whatever that is, that information that you need to get your assignment submitted on turnitin.com is right here in the left-hand column, second box down. We will review that and make sure everyone gets that submitted. Please make sure your work is your work. Okay. Talk to anyone who's had me in the past, and I talk a lot about academic integrity. I will continue to do so. You are forewarned, if you are not already aware, that Turnitin.com has a plagiarism detector. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to turn in your name and your answers labeled LEQ1 and then LEQ2. Do not copy the prompt. That will trigger some of the similarity reports, and I don't want to have to sift through those. Okay. So your name and your work labeled LEQ1, LEQ2. Turn it in on turnitin.com. You can do that prior to class. Okay. Some of you may not be ready. That's okay. You will be ready on day one. And we will follow the instructions and we will go through the rest of these systems and policies and procedures and all that stuff and get ready for a great year. Guys, I thank you. I look forward to working with you. We'll see you in less than a week. Take care.